it looks at the moment. Joining me is Betsy McGaughey. It's a Trump supporter and former Lieutenant Governor of New York. The working class whites are, to some extent, you are a Donald Trump supporter.
I am, and they have taken it on the chin in this economy. Of course, almost everyone has. On average, Americans are earning less now than they did in 2007 in real 2015 dollars. In other words, there's been so little growth that most people are not making any headway. They're scrambling to get up the ladder, but they're stuck on the same rung.
Well, we did get some good income numbers just a few weeks ago from the U.S. government, which does show income is now starting to rebound. It's still less than it was before the crisis.
That's right.
But why do you believe that Donald Trump's policies are the right ones for these working class whites and others, 50% of African Americans, when the numbers show his economic policies will balloon the deficit?
Well, because that's not the real issue. The real issue is sparking economic growth. And his tax plan is designed to create 3.5% to 4% economic growth, something that is very achievable in this economy. And the tax...
It is not.
Let me explain why it is, although you've already committed to buying me dinner when we hit 3%. So I'm
quarters of 3%.
highly motivated.
No, 2 quarters was the bet.
Right. But what's happened here is the reason that the economy is limping along at 1%, 1.2%, despite robust consumer demand, is that businesses are failing to invest. For 3 quarters in a row now, we've had negative business investment. And when a business doesn't buy another truck, it can't hire another driver. When it doesn't buy another computer, it can't hire another office worker.
So what do you like in Donald Trump's policies that will increase?
The key is slashing the corporate tax rate to 15%, less than half of what it currently is. American companies paid the highest corporate taxes in the world. Even after all the loopholes and deductions, they're still paying far more than other companies in other countries. They're at a competitive disadvantage. Many of them are leaving, and those that are staying are earning less doing what they could be doing in some other countries.
I can certainly see the sympathy argument of lowering the corporate tax rate to what it is when you look at what, say, for example, Ireland or the UK or others are. However, you haven't addressed the issue of the deficit.
I would like to.
On this program yesterday, the Committee for the Responsible Federal Budget Federal Deficit, fine body of men and women, said that his policies balloons the deficit to $5.2 trillion.
Yes, and let me point out why I'm not worried about that. Because
should you be?
Oh, yes, no. Way back in the 1960s, the same naysayers said that to JFK. He looked at the economy when he came into office, and he said, oh my, we have too little tax revenue. And what are we going to do about it? We're going to cut tax rates. He said this to the Economic Club of New York, the very same stage on which Donald Trump stood recently. And he said, don't worry about the deficit because, in fact, after a period, and he coined this phrase, transition deficit, you will see more revenue coming in. If you want more of something, tax it less.
This is the trickle-down economics being applied to corporations.
Oh, no. Don't call it trickle-down. Don't call it trickle-down. That's not what it is at all. That's a disparaging term used by Democrats to belittle Republican tax policy. But in fact,
because it doesn't work.
No, let me
Those policies don't work.
Kennedy's tax cuts sparked a 5% yearly economic growth.
Kennedy didn't have to deal with NAFTA, and Kennedy didn't have to deal with China.
Reagan came into office and faced the same kind of failing economy, slashed corporate tax rates again, and achieved many years of 4.5% growth. And let me point out, Reagan, too, said, don't worry about the deficit. By 1991, the deficit was heading down. So don't wet your pants about the deficit.
So the last time, by my reckoning, and I remember we were looking at this recently, the U.S. enjoyed 3 to 4% economic growth.
Through almost the entire 20th century.
Not quite. It's
3.5 was the average.
20th century. Yes. But if you take post the 21st century, it's not happening.
Very dismal.
It's not been
very dismal.
So,
and under Obama, it's never hit 3% once. But we can.
But you can't take the last 8 years as being typical, as the country has brought itself out of the Great Recession, particularly when you're trading...
Well, it hasn't. It's been the worst recovery since the 1930s.
When your trading partners, like the European Union, are in trouble and China is slowing down.
Okay, now let me point out that Donald Trump's opponent, Hillary Clinton, actually projects under her economic plan 2% growth as far as we can see in the future. I urge Americans not to vote for somebody who's willing to settle for 2% growth. We can do much better. And the fact is, I hear people say 2% growth, it's a worldwide situation. We won't achieve the kind of growth we have in the past. It reminds me of when Malthus said, stop having babies, we won't be able to feed them anymore. And then came along the steam engine, the combine, and we had abundance. Have faith in the ingenuity of development. We will have abundance again.
Which one of us gets to choose the restaurant?
Let's go to a steakhouse.
The thought of sitting next to red meat and you is enough to terrify me. You're on. 2/4 of 3% growth.
I agree.
Whoever wins.
Otherwise, I owe you dinner at a fancy fish place.
I think I've just been slapped on the head with a piece of wet fish.